Hello, good evening and welcome to the news. I am Saja Breto. Coming up this evening, Gambia Press Union observes World Press Freedom Day. Women of Dibakunda complain about lack of access to water. Gambia Police Force hold a stakeholder consultative seminar, and our special guest on News Review today is NPP stalwart Ahmad Jite. But first, we will take a look at the newspapers. The Standard newspaper is reporting that there is another presidential aspirant from Nyomi Bara. NPP will prefer death to same in a December election. This according to the president of the Gambia and of course the leader of the National People's Party, His Excellency Adama Barrow. Humanity First gives over 7 million Gambian dollars material to Gambia's COVID-19 fight. Navy arrests criminal gang in Tanje Forest. Let's take a look at some of these stories in detail. President Adama Barrow has declared that his National People's Party would rather take death than shame in the December 4th presidential election. Addressing a group of former National Assembly members and governors who called on him to declare their support, President Barrow went further to explain NPP is not taking the December presidential election lightly. We are ready for anything as far as the elections are concerned, and when you are about to start a war, there are two things to bear in mind. That is death or shame. You either take death or shame, and we, the NPP, will rather take death than shame. A lot of political leaders have also reacted to this statement, calling it irresponsible coming from the head of state as a public servant, which we will discuss later on the show, which of course with one of his supporters there, Ahmad Jite. On to our next story, when Ibrahim Mane, son of a former chief of Nyomi, the late Alhaji Tabora Mane, has announced his intention to challenge President Adama Barrow for the top job, becoming the latest candidate to throw his hat in the ring. Mane joins an already crowded field of 18 registered political parties and 3 independent candidates. Navy arrests criminal gang in Tanje Forest. The Gambian Navy over the weekend arrested a gang of suspected criminals comprising mainly of young men and some women from their hideout deep in the Tanje Forest reserved for bird watching. According to sources, the Navy conducted a raid on the beach leading to the arrest and discovery of the criminals and their sanctuary in the forest. Eyewitnesses told the Standard newspaper that the gang members numbered about a dozen, including women who cook for the group in the forest. Humanity First receives a 7 million Gambian dollars worth of materials as a contribution to Gambia's COVID-19 fight. The Gambia on Friday received an assortment of medical supplies worth over 7 million Gambian dollars from Humanity First to fight against COVID-19. The materials included a container of PPEs purchased directly by the United Kingdom's National Health Services, NHS, and sanitizers purchased by the WFP. The items were presented to the Edward Francis Small Teaching Hospital for onward delivery to other hospitals around the country. Union calls for price control and salary revision. The Secretary General of the Gambian National Trade Union Congress, Ibrahim Agaba Cham, has expressed deep concern about the skyrocketing prices of basic commodities and its negative impact on the lives of average Gambian families. In a statement issued to mark Workers' Day, Mr. Cham also urged the government to consider establishing a price control system as a matter of urgency for the greater good of the Gambian people. Meanwhile, 2 suspects arrested with help of CCTV footage. Police have confirmed that the 2 women allegedly caught in a widely circulated CCTV video footage stealing from a garment shop have been identified and arrested. The police said they received a complaint on Saturday that over 200,000 Gambian dollars was stolen from a garment shop at the Serekunda market, with the complainant alleging that his CCTV surveillance captured 2 unidentified women in veils believed to be the suspects, after which they swiftly opened an investigation into the matter. That's it for the Standard newspaper. Let's take a look at the point. Row at UTG over missing grades, lecturers' absenteeism. Jambur women gardeners decry poor water sources. Bansang youths give 3 months ultimatum to NAWEC. Let's take a look at those stories. Students of the University of the Gambia are complaining excessively over what they describe as missing grades and the frequent absenteeism of lecturers. The episode has sparked a heated debate among Gambians within and outside the country. The affected students are left with no option but to receipt those missing grades. In some circumstances, lecturers are accused of giving some students grades that they do not in fact deserve. Following a mounting pressure from youths of Bansang demanding a sit-down with the National Utilities Company, the managing director of NAWEC over the weekend traveled to the provincial town for a meeting that resulted in an ultimatum to fix the water problem within 3 months. Last week, tension nearly brewed up in Bansang when youth summoned NAWEC team for a meeting over the 2-year long-standing water coloration problem that their population is forced to use for drinking, cooking, and other domestic purposes. That will be it for the newspaper. Let's go for a break. I'll be right back. Stay tuned. Welcome back. And now the Gambia Press Union today joins the rest of the world to observe World Press Freedom Day. This year's theme was Safety of Journalists is Imperative for Credibility of Elections. The FAT Network's Usman Jatta witnessed the celebration at the GPU headquarters in Bakau, and he now files in this report.
The day is a reminder to governments of the need to respect their commitment to press freedom and is also a day of reflection among media professionals about issues of press freedom and professional ethics.
Beneath the ranking lies facts that reveal that the media situation in the country is only better than the dark days of the dictatorship. So in a nutshell, we are not out of the woods yet. With a score of 30.76 points in the RSF measurement or ranking, the media landscape in the Gambia is still problematic. So improvement in the ranking does not necessarily mean that we are out of the woods and the media environment in the country is ideal. One of the reasons the Gambia is still stuck in this situation is because of the unfriendly environment and particularly legislations against the media. These are obnoxious and media repressive laws. The long-awaiting major reforms of the repressive media laws in the Gambia continue to drag 4 years on. The Media Law Review Committee's final report submitted to the Ministry of Information and Communications in May 2018 recommended for the review and amendment of the following legislations. 1, Information and Communications Act of 2009. 2, Criminal Code of 1933. 3, Indemnity Act of 2001. 4, GRTS Act of 2004. 5, Telegraph Stations Act of 1999. 6, Official Secret Act of 1922. And 7, Newspaper and Broadcasting Stations Act of 1944. Ladies and gentlemen, all these laws are recommended for review because they have problematic and disturbing provisions that are not in line with international norms, standards, and democracy.
It is also a day of remembrance for those journalists who lost their lives in the pursuit of a story. Cherno Jallow, veteran journalist, outlined the need of observing ethics as journalists informing the public.
So for us to be respected by the citizens, by the public, because there is public concern, not necessarily because we are journalists, but by our practice of the profession. By our practice of the professions. Are we professional in our presentation of the news? How do we present the news? you have to remember always that we as journalists, we are just presenting information. But we fail to realize that out there are citizens. We have people who are more educated than us.
More importantly, the day is geared towards supporting the media, who are the main targets for the abolition of press freedom.
I think it's very, very scary, even though not compared to during the previous regime. A lot of changes have been done, but I believe still we need more room for improvement looking at the landscape of press freedom, because it's like all the time the government officials and the party supporters will always trample on the rights of journalists for just doing their work. And I think this is something that have derailed the interest of many young journalists to continue pursuing the profession.
This year's World Press Freedom Day marks the 30th anniversary of the Windhoek Declaration, which was designed by African journalists advocating for an independent and a more vibrant press. The declaration gave birth to the celebration of World Press Freedom Day in 1991. As part of events marking this year's World Press Freedom Day, the Gambia Press Union launched the new GPU Code of Conduct for journalists. This Code of Conduct for media practitioners first came into effect in 2016. It's been named after veteran journalist Cherno Jallow, who has earned the nickname Ethics for his insistence on ethical journalism.
You have done me proud. And I can always say, though I have stepped down in lecturing, I'm still part of you. I'm always available to you. As I said, you are my family, my media family. You are as important to me as my own blood family. I realize that now. I left the Gambia government 34 years ago, or 26 years ago. But still, the Gambia Press Union and you people are still encouraging me to come forward, to participate, to get involved. That alone is compensation enough. Let me tell you, one medicine against aging is to challenge the mind and the body. To challenge the mind and the body. I go to the classroom, I meet young girls, young boys, and we talked, we discussed, I lecture. That challenges my mind. Physically, I go to the school and back. I remain young. Aging is just mindset. If you want to grow old, you will grow old. As long as you challenge the mind, mensana incorpore sano. If the mind is healthy, the body is healthy.
Press freedom in the Gambia has a rough history following 22 years of dictatorship which saw a series of press rights violations. The Gambia Press Union has been on the forefront standing by Gambian journalists, especially for those who fall victim of violations, by pressuring authorities to strengthen press freedom. Attacks on journalists and the closure of two privately owned radio stations in early 2020 has reminded journalists of the dark days of ex-President Yahya Jammeh.
But still, more work needs to be done. You still have some draconian media laws in the country, and which could land journalists in problem. I believe the government is, doing some, but still now there should be a level of improvement with regard to media freedom. Yes, they need to make sure that those draconian media laws are repealed, so that we could have that free environment to work.
The 2020 Press Freedom Index of the France-based human rights watchdog Reporters Sans Frontières RSF ranked the Gambia 85th position out of 180 countries. In reaction to the new level of press freedom, the government reacts in a press release which reads, "The Gambia government under the leadership of President Adama Barrow continues to encourage responsible media freedom to restore the Gambia's past glory of a fledgling democratic state with respect for human and people's rights." The release ends. Gambia has continued to to progress despite some notable press freedom violations in 2020 after the departure of ex-President Yahya Jammeh in 2017. In 2020, the country had 4 daily newspapers, 33 radio stations and 6 TV channels. Reporting for the Fatu Network News Review, Osman Jata.
Welcome back. And now women in Dibakunda in the North Bank region say they still have to travel kilometers away before they can have access to water. Fatou Kamara has more.
The lack of adequate water has sadly affected the lives and living conditions of the women in this remote village called Dibakunda, situated in the North Bank region of the Gambia. These women go out of their homes to fetch water in a tap. They would spend long hours before they can secure just a pan of water to take home. Their means of transporting water is by carrying it on their heads. Jamanjai told the Fatu Network there is only one tap in the area from which they all fetch from.
am ndox kay jafe na fi ñun kay fii benn pompe rek moo ne suñ koñ mooy pompe bi ñun ñëpp si la ñuy root waaw. ne jungu ko ñu ngi nii ba pompe bu bee ba tey fos sax mënagut a daj ne ñun ñi toog ne kenn du yëgut ndax rang lañ dee def.
léegi soo leen ñëwee pour root da ngeen dee am puus wala da ngeen koy yenu.
dañ koy yenu lañ dee def yenu waaw amuñ benn puus bidon dañ koy yenu pan dañ koy yenu lépp la ñuy yenu waaw.
This old woman expressed similar sentiments.
marché ak li ñu dimbale si rootukaay waaw amuñ ndox xam nga yaa ngi gis teen bi wala la fa nekk amuñ rootukaay de te bëgg ne ndox te bëgg ne marché bi ko ñu si dimbale waaw.
Buri Sambu was found sitting on her gallon waiting for her turn to fetch water. She said the tap usually opens at 1 p.m. and closes at 5 p.m. Buri said even at that, not all would have water. Sambu cried for help.
am na time mu hubbi léegi sax la commencé hubbi wan la daan hubbi ba 5 mu tëj ndox moom problème la si koñ dëkk bi ndox moom waaw ndox moom yoo xamuñ ko moom waaw bi dañuy dem xalaan yeneen koñ yi sax yeneen pompe yi waaw fii moo xamuñ ndox moom bëgg nañ ku ñu jàppale si ndox dara bu baax a baax waaw. nga gis nii ba nii yëpp benn pompe bi moo fi nekk dafa xam nit amul ndox pompe bi nag yàgg na trop man time boo ba maa ngi Farafenni bi mooy si Farafenni laa nekkoon bala ma ñëwaat fi laa fekk pompe bi xam pompe bi taay ni kii la seeku saabali waaw taay nam la.
Sambu said the animals are not left out regardless of the situation.
mbaam yi fii taxaw ndax mbaam yi am na fuñ dee naan.
waaw dañoo duyoo si paan yi naan wala mbalkam bi bëree ndox ñu ñëw naan si mbalkam bi ku si bëgg na ndox yi mbalkam bi sax borom dalaa duyal paan nga naan di gàtt yi ne koñ bi yëpp fii lañ naan bu gàtt yi ñëwee ni ñu dañoo toog duñu root ba gàtt naan ba pare dem ñu doog a root bu ndox mi jeexee ñu tasaaroo dem ñibbi duñu am ndox.
This woman was found doing laundry. She cried the tap is not enough to serve them, adding they would be pleased to receive help from anyone, especially from the government.
soo waree fóot problème la ndax man léegi maa ngi fóot waaye si bag bi fee la dem duyee ji léegi la pompe bi doog a ubbi pompe bi léegi la ubbi wala ma fóot si bag wëgg bi fee laa dem wutee ndox doog a dem sëmb fële du fóot root mi dafa jafe ndax ñun suñ pompe bi lu mu yenu moom laa tanut nit ñi dañoo bëri tawut pompe bi daanaka duy génne ndox loolu moom mooy suñ problème de ku ñu dimbale si pompe bëgg nañ ko de baax na ku ñu dimbale itam de ba tey ñu jël waaw.
waaw nguur gi nag bu leen a wax gaay
inkay bëgg nañ nguur gi dimbale ñu ne ñaanoon nañ leen ko fi ba tey gisaguñ ko waaye ba tey buñ ko gisee baax na ba tey nag ñu ngi bëgg de.
Water is ranked 6th on the SDGs. It talks about access to water and sanitation for all. However, in the Gambia, quite a few areas, especially remote villages, continue to battle with access to water, particularly clean water. Fatou Kamara reporting for the Fatu Network News Review.
TAF Africa Global presents the new Tulip Gardens. TAF Tulip Gardens is set to comprise service plots in sizes ranging from 220 to 570 meters square. Deposit as low as $83,600 is only an 18-month interest-free payment plan with only 20% deposit on the service plots. Please contact 376-2333 or 776-2333. Tough Africa Global presents the new Tulip Gardens. Tough Tulip Gardens is set to comprise service plots.
Welcome back, viewers, and now joining us live on today's news review is Ahmad Jite. Mr. Jite, can you hear us?
Loud and clear. Can you hear me too? Thank you so much for having me, my sister.
Begin on a lighter note. I know the party you support made quite the headline this past weekend following the big reveal of your party's executive members. You know, just like when Mamadou Sabally didn't get a position in the UDP executive, people, you know, came at him, and they are doing the same thing coming after you, saying that, well, basically saying, well, where is Jite with all his talking and whatnot? He couldn't still even make it to the executive of the National People's Party. How do you respond to things like this?
Thank you very much. Like I said on my Facebook wall, I mean, I am a proud NPP founder today. I am one of the founders, and I remember the earlier days. There has been a lot of talks about how we wouldn't have people. We are not, it's just going to remain a club and all of that. If today you can have 20 party vibrant people who are to that is again, like you said, I mean, I don't know who will go after us or maybe executive, because I mean, look, being on an executive or in an executive position is just an official role. It has nothing to do with being active and also being, you know, I mean, a useful member of a party. I've given an example to a lot of, you know, about a lot of people. Don't even leave Mamadou Sabally alone. You have a lot of people, especially for UDP, of course, a lot of the people that are talking are members of the UDP, the adversaries or the opponents. And you have the Sehu Sedilis, you have the Bahamas, and many others on UDP online, you know, at home and abroad, that are not members of the executive of the party, but they're active. I mean, why would that be an issue? I am perfectly okay with it, Sergio.
No problem not being part of the executive of the party, and that wouldn't change you being a stalwart supporter of the party. And now let's talk about the allegations, because every time people mention NPP, the first thing that some of the critics are trying to say is that they cannot even get their house together because there are so many allegations of infighting. For example, let's say, right now, I think a lot of Gambians will agree that there is no NPP without the Barrow Youth Movement, because that's where it started from and it transformed into a political party. And now a lot of people are saying that even the founding members of that BYM seem to have been sidelined from the executive of the party. What can you say about that?
Well, so again, to the very position we started, it's not everybody that builds something. It's not everybody that is active in a group wants an official position. Now, there are those who started, as you would say, with, you know, Barrow Youth Movement, that were only, you know, I mean, they are to make sure that President Adama Barrow is not victimized and punished unfairly by the parent party then, that was UDP. They were there, they felt Barrow was wronged, they felt Barrow and those that have similar beliefs in the party, I mean, were victimized, and that shouldn't happen. So it's not everybody that is or that was in BYM or Barrow Fans Club wants to be part of the executive. So it's the same thing as, you know, in a revolution. It's not everybody that took up arms and fought, wants to have an official position in whatever formation that is to be born after that arm or whatever revolution you call it. So, I mean, those that, again, let me get to the most important aspect. This is democracy. And there was a body that was officially, given the responsibility to pick up executives, to nominate and to also confirm. Just like you would give a role to the National Assembly of a country to accept or reject certain laws that goes to the parliament. So if those people democratically pick this one and not this one, that is what the rule says. I mean, why would anybody have a problem with that? The same thing happens in every party anyways. There is no party in the Gambia that has just the number that is in the executive. At least every party that is a party and officially we recognize would have at least 100 members or 300 members. Is there a party that has all its members as members of its executive? No, there is no party. The maximum number of executive in any party is 50 at most. You have some parties with hundreds of thousands of people in the Gambia. It's not because they are stupid, that's why they do not make it to the party. It's not because they are useless, that's why they do not make it to the party. It's because not everybody can be on the party executive. You have other important roles that you can play, like Mamadou Sabali is doing for UDP, like Sehu Sedili is doing for UDP, like Bamba Mas is doing for UDP, like Ahmad Gite is doing for NPP, like other people are doing for APRC. They are not in the executive. So that is actually what we have to understand. I believe, the democracy in the Gambia is still, we are growing. So things like this are always expected, but it's normal, Asaj.
And of course, and everyone is out there saying things, trying to, get the electorates on their sides. And today it seems like a lot of Gambians are outraged by a headline that was on the Standard newspaper when the president said that NPP will prefer death to shame in December election. What do you make of this statement? Because a lot of people are coming out to say this is very irresponsible coming from someone who's supposed to be the leader of the nation.
So, okay, so, I mean, again, it's political decision, but, the president just translated a very prominent and common adage of his maternal and paternal ethnic groups. If you are someone that is familiar with Fula language, there is a history that says they've placed shame and death for a Fula. Fulas would be very proud of that. And let me say this in Mandinga. Fulo liko fulo la ila ancestor, their ancestor. Yesaya landaye malo, shame and death. The Fula ancestor death to shame. And again, I mean, you heard people say, especially this December 4th election is a jihad. I don't know if you know what jihad means in actual sense in Islam. So it's a war that you fight, for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And one of its conditions is that when you go to a battlefield, you don't run away. You die or you win. That is what it is. In fact, it is one of the 6 biggest sins a believer will commit if you go to a battlefield for the sake of Allah, fisabilillah, jihad, and you revert, you run away. So it's forbidden. You cannot go to a war and you run away. Die there or you come on with victory. So UDP calls the December fight, Dr. Cisse, and they call it a jihad. If they call it a jihad, that you either die or you win. Barros said in a very simple way, it's better we die than we are shamed. That literally simply means we will work, as hard as possible within the confines of the law, within what the law permits to win the election. That is simply what President Adama Barrow is saying. And everybody that is interpreting it in any other way understand and knew that they are just lying, they are just being malicious, they are just being irresponsible in their interpretation. But they know that this is a simple and very old, wise and famous saying of anybody. Nyiwokai nga soto nga fa nga na exam o pass wole fisa nga fa wole fisa nga na exam o fail nga fa wole fisa nyinkana ke. That is a normal thing, simple and very common statement. And it is from this context, it is from this point of view that the President, His Excellency, and my party leader quoted or made this particular very famous and very common adage.
You know, December 2021 elections and the presidency. You know, a couple of days ago, the president was in Sierra Leone to visit to attend the independence celebration of that country. And we saw a picture making the rounds on social media of the president looking like what appears to be him standing and sleeping. What do you make of that? Because a lot of people were saying that, well, this was Photoshop or wasn't. What do you make of that image when you saw it?
I mean, okay, so simple, very simple mathematics. What was the distance between the cameraman and the president? Who was able to see a single eye of any of those presidents from that picture? Because the distance that from which that picture was taken, even the biggest eyed man among them, which is the president of Ghana, you couldn't see his eyes. You could see him facing the camera, but you couldn't see his eyes, whether the eyes were open or closed. How did they know the president was sleeping? Looking down, not looking at the camera, and looking and sleeping are totally different things. And you know this camera, you have 1,000 cameras taking pictures. The president is a human being. Perhaps he was concentrating on a particular camera. After that camera took a shot, the president tried to look down. Before he could put his heads up, they hit him again. Perhaps someone else did that. But to say he's sleeping, there is nothing further away from truth than that, because how would you know? The distance from which that picture was taken, you wouldn't be able to see his eyes. You want to tell me, Sergio, you are sleeping right now because you are not looking at me? Right now, I'm seeing you looking at the computer. I'm not seeing your eyes. Are you sleeping? I could say Sergio is sleeping. Just the moment you look at your computer now, I'm not seeing your eyes like right now. I could take a picture and say Sergio is sleeping, especially when you have a face mask on. So they are just being malicious again, but that does not move us anywhere, because anytime you say these kinds of things, what happens is there are Gambians. You see, this division is just between a simple percentage of Gambians, less than 10%. The other 1.5 million Gambians are very genuine. They are not part of political divide. They don't care about this division and malicious and irresponsible discourse that is going on. They wait until election day. They go and vote and talk about their businesses. And they're always interested in truth. When you bring something and vomit it to the public space, you do two things. You either educate people on good things, or you ridicule yourself because you are not smarter than those that you are giving this information to. They are 5 common sense. They understand the nitty-gritties. In fact, some of them are more knowledgeable than you, even though they don't talk. So when you bring a picture of the president standing at almost, what looks like, what appears to be 3, 5, 6 meters away, or even, 10 meters away from the crowd, and say that president is sleeping without even seeing his face. Most of his face is with face mask up to here, and he was also looking down, and he's a black guy. You said he's sleeping. I don't know what kind of technological machine, kind of photographic instrument you use to be able to determine that he is sleeping. A sleeping man standing. Come on.
you know, you can always leave it to the president and the leader of your party to respond to the critics. And he actually did. He said that, well, if a sleeping president can build all these roads and whatnot, well, when he wakes up, then the opposition will cease to exist. So that's his response to all the Gambian people who thought that he was sleeping during his trip to Sierra Leone. And now let's, same on that trip again. Because Gambians have raised so many issues with that trip, and it all had to do with you know, the president and how he conducted himself. One of the other things that went viral was him actually stepping away from the red carpet that was laid for him to walk on. You know, a lot of people said, well, this is like some diplomatic blunder, you need to grow up and stuff like that. But his people, his supporters say, look, this is humility, you know, to the highest level. What do you think?
I mean, you know, I've asked one of those that said it was a diplomatic blunder about which code, which line of diplomacy at international level did President Barrow break? Tell me, since there is a book that everything about diplomacy was written, or perhaps you are a professor in diplomacy, I've asked the individual to prove which line of diplomacy. Where can we read it from? Perhaps we go and read it to our president to say, please, you go next time, don't do this. But hey, you know what? As I was a staff of GRTS, and I was attached to the office of the president, Yaya, and I witnessed a number of ceremonies where former President Jammeh received heads of state from other countries. One of them, the president of Mauritania, the president of Senegal several times, the president of Guinea, Burundian president, the late president, you know, he received them. And I also witnessed when he received the king of Morocco. I was at the airport when Venezuela's former president came during AU, Hugo Chavez, and, you know, Robert Mugabe. I remember these things. In fact, Abdoulaye Wade, when he came to Gambia during one of his visits, the guard of honor and Abdoulaye Wade's guys, there were Senegalese that came to invite, welcome Abdoulaye Wade. He left the you know, carpet. In fact, more than 4 meters away. He went to his people. They were dancing. He shook hands with them, and he spoke to some of them. It took him about approximately 4 to 5 minutes. Yaya Jammeh followed suit. When you go back to, let's go back to the issue of Sierra Leone. These were Gambians that left their very important daily activities. You know, they were not just in Sierra Leone to play or to joke. They have businesses. They've left these businesses, traveled from wherever they came from to the airport because their head of state is visiting. They went to the airport. But as per security situations, ordinary people don't just go to their leader. It was easier for President Adama Barrow to step forward to them and greet them, just like Abdoulaye Wade did, just like the general in Guinea, the one that took over when Dadis Camara was shot, General Sekuba Kanute, General Sekuba Somdi, he came to the Gambia. I was also the guy in charge of that. So, you know, in fact, one of the presidents went and danced, you know, with Hugo Chavez, left the red carpet. He went and danced to the Kabekel, this Karolinka troop Kabekel that will always be with Jammeh. He left the carpet and went and danced with them. So President Adama Barrow left the red carpet to go and attend to Gambians, to show them that I've recognized you, I've seen you, I loved you, I recognize your presence, thank you. You compare that to a red carpet that is less than $5,000. That is, even if that is a diplomatic blunder, it is a diplomatic blunder worth taking, because Gambians are more important than the red carpet. What I would have expected was for Julius Madi Bio, or Bio, His Excellency of Sierra Leone, to have followed his guests to attend to his people. What Barrow did is what was supposed to happen on the diplomatic front. Go and ask any serious diplomat. These ones that are talking don't even know what they are saying. Let them quote anything, anywhere on on the planet or in any diplomatic book what they are saying. Let them bring any evidence. So they are lying. One Barrow to do that. And I wrote, in fact, the last time I wrote, and I sent a message to someone and I asked him to tell the president, the next time you travel and see Gambians outside, remove your shoe. Don't only get the red carpet. Remove your shoe. Get into the mud. Poto. Dugal si poto. Let them shake hands with Gambians. And then go back and press your feet. Go. Let them talk. Let them talk. And this shows how humble our president is, how respectful he is, and how much he has regard and respect for his people, wherever they may be found around the world.
I let you go. Something I want to discuss, and I want to put this question to you. How popular do you think is President Adama Barrow in the diaspora, GT? Because recently we've had the issue of, diaspora voting, and people are already accusing the president of, trying to stop it from happening. And they're saying the reason is because he knows that he's not very popular out there. What do you think, as someone who lives in the diaspora?
What yardstick did they use to tell us how popular unpopular President Barrow is? Number one, if there is any party that will be compared to Barrow in the diaspora, it's UDP, and that's very limited. Now we have Adama Barrow's, we have NPP US, in fact, different states, New York, NPP Canada, we have NPP London, we have NPP Spain. Anywhere you have UDP, camp group, because the reason why I'm mentioning them, I'm not calling them out, but I'm telling you that anywhere you have a UDP group in the diaspora, you have NPP. So if let's say we are not forced, we are second, but I am sure we are forced. But then let me go to, I watched that Pastor Bajau interview with you, and I just want us to be very practical. There are in physics things that are ideal, and I'm sure in economics there are things that in the book theoretically they are very possible, they are ideal, but if you want to implement them practically, they are not. They are not. A very good example is electricity. The best conductor of electricity, where you have no dissipation or loss of current, is to use gold. How many people will be able to have gold as cables? You cannot, because even if you do, thieves will come and cut off the cables to go with them. Now, we as a country use a very different material for elections. We have Gambians all over the world. Number one, which countries will IEC choose and which ones will they not choose? Because you cannot take Gambians you cannot take ballots or send, marbles. Marbles? We have marbles. That is what we use. We don't go and get a paper and use it, put it in the computer like others that allow diaspora voting do. America, Senegal, we don't have that. We don't have papers. We have stones. If you want to go to the US we have about 30,000 Gambians in the US. You will have to put 30,000 stones in a bag, and travel with it to the US. When they are done to bring it back, how much will that cost? You'll have to take 10,000 barrels of 10,000 stones of marble to UK, to Switzerland, to Australia, to Senegal, to Guinea-Conakry. What modalities would you use? Because it's not paper ballot. We must take these marbles, these stones to everybody that wants to vote, because you cannot have two different voting systems for the same election. You either choose marbles or you choose stones. Paper. Gambia, this election, has decided to maintain the marble form of voting. Now tell them, ask them, how much money will it cost to transport all these marbles? And if we have Gambians all over the world, how many countries would you choose? Because if you want Gambians to vote, it is everyone's right. Even if you have one Gambian living in Fish Island, you need to make sure that Gambian votes. What is the National Assembly saying? What does the law says? How many Gambians must live in a particular country for us to be able to take ballots there for them to vote? What is the minimum, or what is the threshold? We have no law that says that. So that means even where you have one Gambian, and how many, by the way, how do we know? Don't listen to these people, man. There is political will. Barrow is not scared. Diaspora, you don't have more than 100,000, and they are not going to vote for any single individual. Even if you have one party, I tell you, let's say we give the whole of diaspora to one party, I can assure you that President Adama Barrow is going to win with 0 votes from diaspora. And you know that is impossible. You cannot have 0 votes for President Barrow, because I am 1 vote. Nima Kinde in UK is 2 votes. Lamin is there. Bakari Jaju. And you have thousands in Spain, thousands in Switzerland, hundreds in Germany. We have a lot of them in Canada here, in the US. So government has a political will, but we do not have resources. Even if we do, the law does not specify. There is no act that says how we are going to conduct this election for diaspora. You cannot give papers to vote. They must vote with marbles. How do you transport the marbles? A barrel of marbles in an aeroplane will cost Gambia government a lot of money. In some instances, you need 10 barrels. When you have 50,000 Gambians in the US, you need 50,000 marbles to transport. It's not possible. It's not practical. But somebody should be able to think about it. You don't just look at the government because you hate the government. You just start humping. There's no political will. There's no this. There's no that. You should have asked him. PDOI had won with marbles as the choice of material, or as the only available material to vote with. How would you have distributed that around the world for Gambians to vote? How would you have done that? You should have asked him that. I'm sure your mind didn't go to that. Next time he comes, ask him, how do you transport 10 barrels of money?
Don't you think these questions should be put forward to the Independent Electoral Commission, because they're the ones responsible for handling?
Exactly now you have come. The government as a team, Barrow as government, has given the responsibility to the Independent Electoral Commission, and that's not even Barrow. That is the Constitution. They conduct the elections, and when they conduct the elections, they request for money. If they meet, we give them. The amount of money that is going to be able to, enable them to vote in the diaspora, government does not even have, probably, with all these things that I've just told you. So IEC, fantastic. I mean, I would want to equally invite Honorable Alhaji Momodou Njie or his deputy to discuss these matters. President Adama Barrow is not against diaspora voting. Barrow knows, and I know we have a lot of supporters in the diaspora. In fact, we can only be compared with UDP a little bit, no other party. So to say we are not willing, that is unfortunate. We are. Government is willing. There is political will. Financially, we are strained. In the Gambia, we have to be careful right now. The world is going through financial turmoil. Coronavirus has messed up the world's economy. The amount of money we are going to receive, in fact, as election support may not be there. I don't even know if any country will give us a penny to conduct our elections this time around, because every country is trying to fend for itself, because financially some countries are bankrupt already. Some have gone into recession. Some have a meltdown and a lot of problems, Sergio.
Thank you very much there, Ahmad Jite. Thank you very much for coming through to the Fatu Network News Review once again.
Gada, Balamadem, Benating. Okay. Yes. So somebody was expecting that you will ask me a question as to why, a Deputy Secretary General position was not filled. Somebody asked me, I address, a lot of people are watching. I mean, jokingly. Hamga, we are, we have a father. We have problems with our father. You know the story. So for us, the father-son story. It's not like we don't have competent people to man the positions of Deputy Secretary General. But like I jokingly told the person, Usenu is our father, Dabo, Zen Dabo is our father. And we had an issue with him. And, we just left that position. By the time we are done with him in December, when we put them in their position in December 4th, I mean, he probably would have a change of mind. He said, look, I think my son is better off going to my son. So we will invite him into the boss in 2022. So should he want to come there, you cannot put him in the back seat in the boss. At least if he doesn't get number 1 spot, give him number 2. So Deputy General position is kept for him. When we deal with them and win the elections, Halifa Saleh, who knows? If Halifa comes or Mama Kande, they said, oh, we want to join. They are big people. We'll give them the Deputy Secretary General. Other than that, I thank you so much. There is a lot going on, in the country. Too much misinformation, but I can assure you, Sergio, we're all Gambians. And let us guard our friendships, our brotherhood, our community, whatever you call it, as one Gambia. That is very important. Election years can be terrible, but especially the young people, when there are wars, we are the ones they send there. When there are fights, when there are troubles, it is the young ones that are always there. The political leaders, including my president, would probably be sitting at State House. Husseinu Mama Kande Halifa Saleh will all be sitting there. There will be death or injuries. It will always come from us as the young people. Let us approach December with responsibility, with decorum, with civility. Let us back us for wahna komune. Alinga wali barinkana kuya. Nani hulo dunyu kuya. Jerejef.
Amajita, I want to come back. Thank you very much for coming through to the Fast Network News Review. That will be it for News Review today. Do join us tomorrow if you can. Thank you very much for watching and have a good day.